Bullshit.
He watches his mother shoot his father 3 times in the back.
I'm Mr. Blackman. They're the puppies.
I look like Quasimodo to you.
What about Johnny Lauer? What about China?
Big speech of the deathbed.
Adrenaline rush now. Adrenaline rush now. Adrenaline rush now.
So anyway, the Impact show was an alright show. There was too damn much Jeff Jarrett, but at least by the end of the show, the Jeff Jarrett stuff sort of got a little bit funny, so gotta give him credit for that. Open up with Chris Harris, James Storm, Abyss, and Jeff Jarrett versus 4 men. It was later identified, all 4 of these men actually were identified. It was Shark Boy, Norman Smiley, Buck Quartermain, and Cassidy Riley. The only ones you would know is Shark Boy because he had a mask on, and Norman Smiley because he was that dude from WCW. Mm-hmm. Everybody else, absolutely forgettable. So they had this match. Nothing happened. Norman Smiley was the most popular guy on the 4-man team. So, of course, he was pinned by Jeff Jarrett. This is straight out of WCW in more ways than one. But that was your opener, kids.
The 4-man Jobber Squad got exactly 1 move of offense, and it was Norman Smiley doing the big wiggle.
And this was... I used to refer to it as the lewd dance.
Norman's lewd dance.
He would do a dance.
Back in the day.
A man would bend over in front of him, and he would do a dance behind him and slap them on the ass. Norman Smiley has apparently been watching hustle tapes because his lewd dance now involves pelvic thrusting into the ass area of his opponent. And it was extremely lewd.
And thus Jarrett pinned him.
And yes, Jarrett did pin him for that, so... We still don't know after 4 years why Cassidy Riley is a Raven knockoff. Raven ain't even with company
Exactly.
anymore.
He's still wearing... I saw him first and thought Balls Mahoney had lost weight, and then I realized he was still wearing Raven's gear for absolutely no reason.
Yeah. A lot of things we don't understand on this show. Shawn Michaels' nephew did a promo backstage, and apparently he's going to fight Lance Hoyt soon. Think of this. And it gets even better. It's Lance Hoyt versus Maverick Mike.
Matt, but yes.
Why did I write Mike? I thought it was Michael Shane.
Yeah, but then he was Matt Bentley.
Oh, he's Matt Bentley. That explains
but now,
everything.
But that's all history now, because now he's Maverick Mike.
Maverick Matt.
Oh, damn it.
That was your fault.
It was.
Anyway, he's got a stupid name.
Regardless, one way or the other.
To make a long story short here, Maverick Matt and Lance Hoyt apparently is on the pay-per-view.
He's got a stupid name and a pointless program for a bad match.
Yep.
He's on a roll.
They set up this by having Lance Hoyt beat Kenny King, who was so much more popular than Lance Hoyt, and about 5 times a better worker. The people have turned on Lance Hoyt. I don't know if he stopped going to the bar in Orlando or what happened. The funniest thing is, like, for those of you that don't know the story of Lance Hoyt, he used to be Dallas, and one day he just suddenly was Lance Hoyt. And everyone's like, what the fuck is a Lance Hoyt? And we laughed at the comedy of the name Lance Hoyt. And apparently the combination of the wacky name and the fact that Lance Hoyt went to the bar with all the front row geeks in TNA, if any of you are listening from the front row of TNA, I profusely apologize. If not, all the geeks in the front row. He went and partied with them, and so he became their big hero.
Uh-huh.
And they would chant for him, and they would bring signs, and they would chant his name and everything like that. And Lance Hoyt started doing interviews, and people asked him about his popularity, and he was like, I think they just have seen me from the very beginning, and they've just seen how hard I've worked and how fast I've improved. That's why I'm so popular.
Lance was mistaken.
Well, apparently you've deproved,
yes.
Disimproved.
You've slacked off and have gotten worse.
You want to look those words up while you're at it?
No, I trust you.
And, yeah, so people are booing him now. They hate him, and now he's got nothing going for him. It's very sad, except for his 7-foot frame.
Yeah.
He'll always get a chance with a 7-foot frame, but...
Well, that's true. He did almost kill young Mr. King with a backdrop, too.
If this ends up actually on the pay-per-view, I'll be stunned. This is like the free show match. Matt Bentley and Lance Hoyt.
I guess it has to be, and the fact that they're doing a program for a pre-show match tells everything that's wrong with this company right now.
Yep, Hoyt won, and then immediately they cut to Conan at ringside. Homicide and Machete were beating up BG James. Bill E. Gunn tried to make the save. and the bad guys bailed. They had to squeeze in an extra angle for a pay-per-view match here.
Yes.
They got 43 minutes, so they had to. It was more important to hype up, give more time to the Lance Hoyt Maverick Matt feud than the actual feud that people would care about involving the Three Live or Homicide or the Homicidal Conanites, whatever the hell their name is, against the old guy and his wacky son and pals. I just ruined that, didn't I?
If we ever form a league softball team or something, I demand we call ourselves the Homicidal Conanites.
I think it's a pretty good name, really. Team Canada faced Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Chris Sabin.
I mean, at this point, I think 47 men had appeared on the program.
Yeah, they have to fit everybody into the show.
God.
That's the key. And it's like our fault that we can't follow it.
Yes.
It's Petey Williams, Bobby Roode, and Eric Young. No A1, sadly, so there was no hijinks. Jeff Jarrett came out during this match. This is about the third time we've seen him on the show already. Did a little deal with Eric Young. Anyway, Sanjay ran wild and ended up... He had the pin, but there was no ref, and then Petey hit the Canadian Destroyer. I don't ever want to see that move unless it's performed when Petey is running. That's the only time I've ever seen a move where it didn't look completely absurd. And in fact, it looked fantastic when he ran into it. Mm-hmm. This just it still looks so goofy. It defies physics. I hated physics in high school, and I hate even more that this defies all the laws of physics and gravity. So
the only time it's ever remotely enjoyable for me is when the guys taking it know how ridiculous it is, and just take the biggest cartoony bump ever. Sanjay did a pretty good one here.
Yeah.
Bouncing all the way up to his feet and then kind of flopping down.
Borash interviewed Christian backstage. I've said this many times, I'm going to say it again. There has got to be... I was getting too much feedback there. There's got to be a world title, just a main eventer. I was going to say world champion, world title contender. It's got to be a main event dress code, preferably a dress code up and down the show. I'm not in favor of dress codes. In fact, I hate them. Having to wear, a staff shirt to coach gymnastics. Like, my kids aren't going to be able to identify me if I'm not wearing this fucking shirt. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I'm very against dress codes because it just makes you a faceless clone. It takes out all individuality, which I guess for some people's fine. It drives me nuts. But when I heard about the WWE dress code, I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes an enormous difference. I will say that if you're at the airport at 5 a.m., and you're wearing your jeans, I don't believe you should be fined $500. That's bullshit. But if you're the world champion, and you are... Christian was the palest I've ever seen him. Mm-hmm. He was wearing blue jeans, a white t-shirt with a black shirt underneath, and he looked like any dork out of the crowd. He had a belt on his shoulder.
Which was probably a replica.
It may have been, in fact.
He looked like a fan.
And then Monty Brown ran in to attack him, and Monty was pimped out to the nines.
Slacks.
I was like,
silk shirt.
I am fully in favor of this man defeating Christian tonight, in fact. If
yes.
Christian is not given a $1,000 shopping spree to the Men's Warehouse or something of that nature, because this was ridiculous. He's got to look like a champion.
He was quite ghetto.
God bless Christian. God bless him. But he's working with a number of handicaps.
Mm-hmm.
I mean this in the nice way possible, but, he's not going to be on the cover of the 50 most beautiful people that People magazine is going to put out next year.
Nor Muscle and Fitness.
Nor Muscle and Fitness. Nor Tanning Weekly. There's a number
Which would be a fine publication.
He's got all these things going for him, and on top of that, he dresses like a fan.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot do that as the champion.
There was nothing really wrong when he did that initial promo with the leather jacket and the jeans. He looked all right then.
He looked all right, but still, you're the champion of the whole fucking earth.
Yeah.
You're dressed like that?
And it was much worse this week.
And it's even worse when you actually do see WWE and everybody knows WWE is a step above TNA. No fan is like, wow, TNA is the fucking big time. They may enjoy it more,
mm-hmm.
but they're not going to mistake themselves and deceive themselves and say it's the bigger company.
Right.
And you've got the world champ. You've got Batista out there in an Armani suit and $8,000 sunglasses and shit like that, and Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And then you turn on TNA and there's a dude in his Boy Scout outfit
yes.
or whatever. It does not work. So that's my decree that Christian needs a new outfit immediately. So then it was viewing party time, and they were watching the tape and everything like that, and Alex Shelley was trying to explain something to Jeff, but Jeff didn't want to hear anything about it, so you know what that meant. They had footage of Sting bebopping around at the golf course, walking with his daughter, coaching basketball, that sort of thing. Sting finally caught Alex Shelley. Alex Shelley was not nearly as funny on commentary as he was last week until Sting goes, "You think this is funny?" And in the most timid voice ever, he just goes, "No." As if to say, "You've caught me, Mr. Borden."
I'm sorry,
I
sir.
profusely apologize.
Just trying to get out of there without getting hurt.
Yes, Jeff made me do it.
Yes.
So Sting said, "Listen, you tell Jarrett Sting will not be showing up at the pay-per-view. Steve Borden will." So apparently there's going to be a sermon at the TNA pay-per-view or something of that nature.
That would be great if he sat all the heels down and lectured to them.
That's right. "You stalkers. The Lord saith thou shalt not stalk." So anyway, that's the big plug for the pay-per-view. Steve Borden's going to be there. So then, of course, Jarrett flipped out.
The whole crew flipped out. This was really a great moment.
It was funny, actually. Jeff Jarrett was
Team
funny.
Canada, AMW, Jarrett, Jackie was happy, but Gail came, and they all just standing there open mouth. James Storm, as he is wont to do, was drinking and was so terrified that he had stopped mid-drink but had not stopped pouring alcohol all over his face.
Yes, it was good stuff.
It was, and
then
it didn't
Jarrett,
linger too long on anything either. It showed the shot of each person, established what was going on, and then just moved on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jarrett finished up going, "Did you not think this was a valuable piece of information for me to know?" Which, he did, but that was the comedy.
That was great comedy.
Then we had Prince of Punk and Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles and Chris Daniels. I could not figure out why Joe and the Punk would be a team.
What a team.
Joe should have killed him and ate him and then done a handicap match here. But the highlight of this was actually a fan in the crowd that held up a Samoa Joe kills his foes sign. Which got a hearty thumbs up from me, but they had a match, and out of nowhere, Samoa Joe pinned Chris Daniels.
I don't get it.
Well, all I could think, this is the only thing I could figure out, that since you had the Prince of Punk in there, the obvious jobber, and since they pinned Daniels, all I can think is it's supposed to have all the marks think that Daniels is going to win the belt at the pay-per-view.
Sure.
And then Joe will win it. He'll retain the title. That's all I could think. It's some sort of wacky swerve, but at the end of the match, AJ put the belt on the cables and dared Joe to
climb them.
The storyline is that Joe's too fat.
It is.
That's really what they're playing up. He's like, "Get your fat ass on these cables, fatty." And Joe was irate. So all I can think is that, the finish has got to be Joe, doing a pullover on these cables and dancing on them, or doing a rope walk or something, and then grabbing it and doing a backflip to the mat or something wacky, but something to that nature. But there's going to be something going down. I think Joe retains, but who knows at this point. And then, of course, it couldn't end without yet another Jeff Jarrett segment, about segment 8. Literally, it was probably about 8, if I actually add them all up with packages and that sort of thing. But
it was far too many.
He said he had a plan, and the plan was on his speed dial. And I guess we have to find out next week what the plan is.
It's a mystery man.
Probably something that we should know if we actually read the taping results, but...
No, I did. I don't remember anything.
Yeah, I didn't, so... Should
we guess?
No.
All right.
I don't really care. We'll just wait till next week. So anyway, that was iMPACT. I mean, if you take out the poor crowd reaction, it wasn't a bad show, but I don't know. This is one I would never watch again, so...
Yeah, there was only one really bad match. It just happened to be the main event.
There's a worse match than that, but it was much shorter. But let's go over it. Alex Shelley and Jay Lethal was the opener. Oh, that was
hell was that?
So fucking annoying.
Oh.
Sorry about that, kids. That's never get virus protection software because they're sending you little alerts approximately every 10 minutes. I fucking hate that. So if I can find out how to stop it from sending those alerts, I will do that immediately. But anyway, where were we? Alex Shelley and Jay Lethal opened up the show. It was a fine little match. They did a lot of good mat-based wrestling. The crowd was into it at points. At other points, they just sort of sat there. Really nothing exceptional, nothing bad. And Alex Shelley won, and that's it. All I know is I was typing, and I typed nothing for about 8 minutes. And I'm like, I feel like I should be writing something, but there's nothing to write about.
Yeah, they did stuff.
Yes.
They did all kinds of moves. Like you said, it was a fine opener that one guy had to win, and it happened to be Alex Shelley. this was also kind of a case where we've talked about this before. A lot of matches these days are just going too long. This peaked about 2 minutes before the finish, and then they kept going for a while. And
Match
until he won.
Match only went 10 minutes.
Yeah, it should have gone 8.
Wow. I didn't quite think it was needing 8.
This wasn't an OVW marathon or anything.
No.
But it peaked before the finish, and then by the end, it was a little flatter.
I think that's a problem when you say a match needs to be shorter. I immediately think about the 45-minute OVW matches, which need 40 minutes cut off of them. But
Yes.
I mean, this was, if you wanted me to describe this match in one sentence, 2 men had a wrestling match, and one of them was victorious. That's it. So let's move on. Lance Hoyt and Maverick Matt. Matt Bentley, as many of you know, rips off Shawn Michaels, who's his uncle or whatever relation he is. It was taken to a new level tonight. Not only was he wearing the chaps, he was ripping off every spot Shawn Michaels has ever performed. And I don't know, a lot of people rip off a lot of different people, and it's fine. But Matt Bentley takes it to such a level that, I mean, he's not even a human being. He's like a bad clone of a much better wrestler.
He doesn't wrestle. He does a Shawn Michaels impression.
Yes, it is. It's like an Elvis impersonator.
Yeah.
He's a Shawn Michaels impersonator having not as good matches.
Yeah.
Lance Hoyt is actually, I mean, Lance Hoyt plays Diesel, but he does a better job than Diesel much of the time.
He was really good tonight.
Yeah, he doesn't have the, Nash has a superstar aura that Lance Hoyt does not have.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as just, being a Diesel ripoff, he does a perfectly fine job. He's in some ways better than the real deal. Matt Bentley, in no way. Perhaps he has a better hairline. That's it.
That would be the end of it right there.
I believe they tried to have some semblance of a Shawn Michaels Diesel match.
I saw hints of Shawn and Undertaker in there as well.
Yeah.
But it was not that good. It was like the opener. It was a match. I had fun watching, and when it was over, I was done.
Yeah. And actually, the interesting thing to me was the Hoyt fan club was back.
The Hoyt fan club was back. I should add, by the way, that my review of that match, that when it was I had fun watching it, and when it was over, I was done and ready to move on. That is still better than I thought it would be. So maybe I had low expectations. Maybe that's why I like the show so much. But yeah.
You must have. There was absolutely nothing to this match until the very, very finish, which was they were doing this show-long thing where Alex Shelley and what the hell's that geek's name?
Eric Young.
Eric Young, our favorite.
I hear you call him a geek.
There's something about
Actually,
Eric.
You know what? He is. That's why we love him.
There's something about TNA where I can see men, and I just, for some reason, their name escapes me. I don't.
A lot of the time, that's completely forgivable.
I don't know what it is, but it shouldn't be like that. But anyway, and especially Eric Young, of all people. But anyway, Eric Young and Alex Shelley were looking all over the place for Sting, and they ended up in the rafters during this match. And as the match was going on, they cut to the rafters to show what they were doing. And Eric Young had a bag of flyers that said, "Have you seen this man?" It was Sting's likeness on the flyer. And he dropped them from the rafters, and the fans were chanting "over here" and that sort of thing because they all wanted a flyer. And Tracy picked up a flyer. And Matt Bentley's setting up for his finish, which is, in fact, the super kick. And Tracy jumps up on the apron with a flyer, and she's like, "Hey, look at this." And his exact words were, "Who cares?" And he turned around into a big boot and was pinned, still with the flyer in his hand. And that's the closest he came to Shawn Michaels all evening, because that was fucking entertaining right there.
It was.
And that saved this match for me. But other than that, just really nothing to it.
I was a little disappointed we didn't get to see the Texas Tower Bomb, because that is a cool move.
It is. It is actually a really cool move. I'm turning the corner on Lance Hoyt, but it is just this match, so I better not speak too soon. Then
You've been known to be fickle before.
I'm a very fickle man. I'm well aware of that. Is fickle and hypocritical the same thing?
No.
I like to think I'm not a hypocrite, but I am definitely fickle.
Yes, I would agree with that.
All right. Bobby Roode and Eric Young faced the Naturals, speaking of people whose names I can't remember, after 4 years. And I will admit that I do know that one of them is Andy Douglas and one of them is Chase Stevens, but I don't know which is which. So I guess after 4 years, the fact that I at least know that they each have a name and know what the name is an improvement. But
that's true.
What do they bring to the table, Vince?
Oh, absolutely nothing. I've never seen two more generic guys.
I mean,
because I don't know their names either, and I've seen them. They're not the worst wrestlers I've ever seen.
No, I mean, it's not.
They're just so bland and so blah, so vanilla, and every other metaphor you can think of. They make no impression on you whatsoever.
Absolutely none.
They're just two guys.
It's like you drew someone out of the audience drew two pro wrestlers. They were animated, brought to life, and they have matches. They never speak.
They never speak.
No way are they ever.
They never interact with the crowd at all. They never taunt their foes. There's no difference between heel natural and face natural.
They never. There's no differentiation in any way. Like, at least we know that James Storm drinks, and he's the exciting one, and his partner's the boring one. He doesn't drink. At least we have that distinction between the two.
Okay.
But these two guys, absolutely no. Anyway, they had a match with Bobby Roode and Eric Young, and again, it was just a match. They cut off the blonde-haired natural forever, and it was just a deal where this stuff should work. It was a very old-school match, and it's a thing with the naturals where you can cut off the blonde natural for 5 years, and the only reason people would want to see a tag after 5 years is because they're ready for the next match. They get no sympathy whatsoever. So he finally got the hot tag, and they ran wild. Somehow the hockey stick came into play and was broken over one of the naturals' heads.
What a new and unique finish.
Sure, and the referee was there within an instant to count the pin, but somehow, I guess he didn't see it.
Yeah.
I don't know how it worked. This was another one of those fucking shows where they just had no rules and it drove me nuts. But, yep, hockey stick, boring finish to a nothing match that I don't know where it leads. So.
Yeah, no one cares for the naturals. No one wants to cheer them. No one wants to boo them.
But, I mean, the actual in-ring...
Go ahead.
The actual in-ring was not a disaster.
No, they can.
It was just
they can do stuff.
It was
their layout makes sense. They're the story's there, but just no one cares. And actually, I like both guys, the Canadians, a lot. We're all big fans of Eric Young here, and I think Bobby Roode's a really good, just big, brawny, brawling Canadian guy. Just a mean mofo. And thankfully they were there, because without them, this match would have been the most boring thing ever. As it was, again, we watched it, had fun watching it. When it was done, we were ready to go.
I don't want to speak ill of anybody who has passed away, but I'm going to say this regarding Chris Candido, actually. Several years ago, I was watching some Chris Candido matches. He was in ECW, and he may have been under the influence of a substance at the time, and I can say that because he admitted many times that he had his own demons and had some major problems. I don't know if that was a reason for it or not, but he had some matches during this one period where it was like he had been created in a lab. He was a robot. He had been programmed to do a match with a pre-designed set of spots, and he robotically connected the dots in his match. And it was one of those deals where everything about the match was totally fine. Everything made sense, but there was just no humanity in it.
No passion.
No, nothing. It was just move to move to move. The next move should be an ankle lock, so he did an ankle lock, or just whatever the move was. But he just moved, connect the dots, connect the dots, connect the dots, connect the dots. And that's what this match was.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wrote the match down, and we could tell stories about people that scripted their matches out in the
on
past.
more than one occasion.
Sure. But if you wrote the match down, and you gave the match to, say, Ricky Steamboat, he'd read the match and go, this is perfect. This will be a hell of a match. But doing this match by the script, it didn't work tonight. It was just a match, and it was missing a lot of stuff. Highlight, by the way, we didn't even mention, was Eric Young taking a flare flop off the middle rope to the floor.
Yeah, to get this particular match over.
He needs to never do that again in his life.
Yeah.
Yes?
That being said, that was a great spot because it's kind of hard to explain, but he was on the ropes and the natural came to throw him off, and Eric fought him off the natural bump to the mat, and Eric stopped, turned to the crowd, and cackled. You've forgotten this entirely.
No, were you waiting for laughter?
Or an acknowledgement of some kind.
That's right, Vince. Go on.
Thank you. That is a reminder of how great Eric Young is.
That's the end?
Yes.
All right, well, let me go on then.
Okay.
I got to say one thing about Eric Young. We've said many things about how so-and-so is a, he's, what's, I don't even remember the term we use now. He works for -4 men. You know what I mean? So someone has to work for +4 men to even it out.
Yeah.
The Naturals worked for negative, they had the charisma of -5 men each. Bobby Roode had the charisma of about -1 man. Eric Young had the charisma of 5 men. But still, when you do the math, that was not enough. It was still in the negative charisma range.
Indeed.
There you go. Homicide and Conan and Machete. Why is he still employed?
No one knows.
Versus,
Well, apparently there's no other Latino in Florida.
it was Homicide Conan and Machete versus Bullet Bob, B.G. James, and Kip James. This match went about 7 minutes, but it seemed like it went about 1. They had a real bad match.
This technically was the worst match on the show, but it was so short I wasn't bothered by it.
Here's how we're going to work it out. Homicide worked for about 10 men. Conan worked for -5. Machete worked for -5, so that evened out. Bullet Bob was wearing less clothes than everybody on the entire in the entire match except for Kip James. So he gets points for that, although he can't work. B.G. James was fine. Kip James, his outfit cost -5 points. I don't know how points and such work on this, but it equaled out to something really bad. Regardless, the whole idea was to build up to the big spot where Bullet Bob and Conan got in the ring together and squared off. And after all the angles, you would think that the place would have went nuts. Instead, they got in the ring, and it was very quiet.
Well, part of it is that whatever their cue was to come into the ring, there was a spot with where BG sent Machete into the corner and then waited in the middle of the ring, and then waited, and then waited for Machete to come towards him, and then waited some more, and finally Homicide hit BG, and they all kind of stole it outside, and whatever was supposed to happen there, it clearly didn't happen, because Bullet Bob was finally figured out, fucking let's get in right now. And he came to the ring, he called out Conan, and Conan said, well, I guess I'll get in there too.
Yeah.
So clearly they had something planned that would make these guys have a dramatic entrance, and it failed.
It failed. The idea was to have a moment.
Yes.
And it had the wrong kind of moment. They had that, oh, Jesus, this didn't work. That kind of moment. And there were missed spots galore in this little match right here, but I don't know. That's pretty much all. Bob beat up Conan, and then all 3 guys triple-teamed Machete and pinned him, and that was the end of that. So
The best part was at the end there when they were all taking turns punching Machete. He was going through the motions, but you could see in his face, like, God damn it, I fucked up again.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
This is the end for me. I'm
This
going to
is
be
it.
beaten by 3 men, including a 66-year-old man.
Missing a finger.
He was in hell of a shape, by the way, for being 66.
Yeah, well,
He's in better shape than you.
oh yeah. he may be in better shape than his son.
Yeah, I would actually concur.
I don't think he's in better shape than anyone on the LAX team, but
Conan, maybe.
he may be...
As far as injuries, him and Conan are on the same level.
Yeah, Conan may look better.
Yeah.
But they're both broken equally.
Then we had the 4-way Puma, Sanjay Dutt, Chris Sabin, and Petey Williams. This was a really good match. It had the same problem where this TNA crowd has seen everything. They have seen it all. And it's getting harder and harder. They're like drug addicts. They need more and more and more and more and more. And there were spots in this match where they went nuts, but there were also long periods in this match where they just sat there and watched what was going on. And the last few minutes were pretty damn good. Petey Williams ended up, I think he hit the Canadian Destroyer on, who'd he hit it on? Somebody.
Dutt, maybe?
Sanjay Dutt, I believe. Anyway, ended up with Sabin hitting Puma, of all people, with the Cradle Shock and getting the pin. Probably 3.5, maybe a little higher.
I'd go higher.
It was,
I go higher, but I will readily admit that many people will not. This wasn't everyone's cup of tea. This was a spot fest all the way. It was 4 guys doing a choreographed 100% match. And a lot of people don't like that, and that's fine. So, but for what it was, it gets to a point where you think, my God, how do they do all this without physically botching a move? And then it keeps going, you're like, my God, how do they remember what all these moves are supposed to be? And then after about 20 minutes, I was just, my God, how do they think of this much stuff to do? When it was over, Craig turned to you and said, they did every move ever. And they may have.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of guys won't like that. But that being said, for me, for the opening, it was awesome. Just unreal awesome. And then there was about a 6 or 7 minute period where it just dragged. And it slowed down to a snail's pace and sucked again. And then the last 3 or 4 minutes were awesome again. So, Chris Sabin especially is just the man to end all men. But
Chris Sabin is a great man.
Chris Sabin is a great man. And really, all these men are, the worst guy is probably Petey. This is the first time I've ever seen Puma. He looked awesome. I completely do not understand why he was pinned. The one guy, everyone else, people like him, but they've all seen him before. They've seen him win. They've seen him lose. They're all on the same level. And the only thing they know about Puma now is that he's good, but he ain't at their level.
He got pinned.
So they couldn't even bring the new guy and put him over leading into the international show. No, he's just a guy who can, do some cool flips and some cool kicks, but he can't hang with our crew.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons I can't go higher than maybe 3 3/4 because, if this match would have been that great, it wouldn't have mattered if Puma lost. And I don't know. It is a spot fest, and I don't necessarily, I've seen far, far worse spot fests. Believe you me. Yeah. And this was a very, very good one, but it was still missing that something that kind of took it up to the next level. But that's just me. So there you go.
Part of it too was that because it was a 4-way, there was that no heel, no babyface, and even when Petey did his "Oh Canada" spot in the corner where he steps the guy's cross and sings the anthem, the first time he went for it, he got cut off and the crowd booed. Then when he went for it again, he pulled it off, and the crowd sang along with him. So the crowd was into it. They liked seeing all the moves. They liked seeing the little men fly around, but they didn't care who won.
It was kind of funny because Raven on Observer Live this evening.
Now, you told me this comment, and thinking about it now in hindsight, it's pretty fitting.
Well, I didn't agree with everything that he said this evening, but he was ranting and raving for about seemingly 4 hours about the problems in wrestling. And I think every single problem he mentioned was occurred in this particular match, from the move after move after move to the not selling the moves to the heels that are shitty heels. Petey Williams, sweet Jesus. What sort of heel sings a Canadian national anthem as a babyface spot so everyone can sing along with him?
I don't know.
This really was every single thing that he said was wrong with the business, but it worked. That's the whole key. He was clearly not watching this match as he gave this speech, because for this crowd, it totally worked, so you can't really, I don't have really anything negative to say about the match. Just because I didn't give it 5 stars doesn't mean I don't think it was a bad match or anything like that, but I have nothing negative to say about it, even though, except for Petey's. But even singing it, whatever, it worked.
But even Petey,
you know what I mean?
It's annoying that he's, a crappy heel, but
it worked.
Was good.
Sure.
It worked.
And the people went along with it, so whatever. I have nothing negative to say about it, but that's that. Ron Killings and 3D, Team 3D, and Rhino faced America's Most Wanted Abyss and Jeff Jarrett. And this was also pretty good. It was long. There was a lot of crowd brawling early. It was actually good crowd brawling because there was a lot of different things going on, and the camera found the best stuff every time, so that was good. And the one negative, I guess, is that, it's kind of hard. I was mentioning the fans have seen it all. When you do a match, it starts out with crowd brawling everywhere in the building and violence, and then it breaks down into a tag team match.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to kill the crowd. And it got even worse when it broke down into the tag match, and guys were allowed to double team while other guys stood patiently on the apron.
Yeah.
So then you had logic holes, and that really hurt the match for a while. And again, it was a match where the place just died in the middle. And finally at the end, it picked up. But again, this is what I talked about earlier. Went too long. Should have gone to the finish about 5 minutes too early, but they had to do 5 extra minutes of near falls and such. And finally, as if, now that the more I think about it, the more I hate this match. Jeff Jarrett pinned... Who'd he pin?
Did he pin Truth?
I believe he pinned Truth, yeah. Jeff Jarrett pinned Ron Killings. Why?
Hopefully it will lead to Jeff Jarrett versus Ron Killings next month, and Killings will win, but who knows?
Yeah, but after watching the main event angle, Ron Killings wasn't even there.
That's true.
I mean...
Well, I guess it's to remind everyone that Jeff Jarrett's still in charge. I don't know.
There was absolutely no logical reason for Jeff Jarrett to win. None. I mean, I thought the whole idea was you set up AMW and Team 3 in a cage for the tag titles.
Yeah.
So theoretically, one of them should beat the other. Perhaps the heel should cheat and beat the babyfaces. The babyfaces get angry and cut a promo for the cage. Instead, Jeff Jarrett just won.
Yeah, I watched this, and I think I like this more than most people would. But that being said, I was watching it and thinking, I have no idea what is going on, but I'm having a ball. The only thing I remember from this was Jarrett hitting the stroke on Truth and pinning him. Beyond that, they did crowd brawling. Some guys did some finishers. There were lots of times, like you said, where some guys would double team, but others wouldn't. And the real reason everyone didn't get involved was just so the guys in the ring could do a spot. But that doesn't hold up to your suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
So everyone worked hard, and there was. They did, there was never a slow point in the match, although there were parts where the crowd died. But yeah, I just had a ball watching it. And at one point, I was thinking about that, and I decided, you know what? As long as I'm having fun, I don't care why. So I can't defend it if someone didn't like it or didn't think it was that good. I can't defend it. I can't preach it. But damn it, I had fun.
What did you think of the Ultimate X match?
Very disappointing. Far and away the worst match these guys have had together. Probably the worst match I've seen Joe have. It's not like there was, no spots got blown. It's not like I wasn't into it, but the ending just came out of nowhere. Chris Daniels climbed the cables and got the belt, and that was it. It was just missing everything. There was no flow to it. There wasn't a lot of story. The story was Joe was fat and couldn't climb the cables, and the one time he tried, he couldn't hang on to the cables. He slipped and fell. So, I don't know. They did push really hard, and I mean hard, the fact that Joe still has not been pinned and is not submitted. And he was still undefeated in one-on-one matches. So, clearly, they still have plans for him. Probably, I don't know, maybe they're getting him out of the X Division entirely, which I think is a bad idea. But, no, I didn't like it.
I thought this was about 3.5. I thought it was good. It just was not even close to the level of their other matches.
Well, keep in mind, when I say worst match these three men have had, that is not a knock.
Yeah.
It was on this show, it was an average match for this show, which is, that's not good for these guys.
I think the problem is just there's such high expectations for these guys. I mean, what they did in the ring, there was some tremendous stuff in this match. But to me, the biggest problem is I felt like they killed Joe.
In a way they did.
I realized they pushed really, really hard that he was still undefeated. They pushed really, really hard that he had never been pinned, he had never submitted, that sort of thing. But the key was, I really thought that at the end of the match, Joe was going to climb to the middle, grab the belt, drop down, and win. I really thought that. He didn't.
No.
And
he never came close.
I think the most important thing is he should never have even gone up there to try. He should have been... I mean, the finish came out of nowhere, and it really... I don't want to say it would have been fine, but it would have been better if Joe hadn't even started climbing yet. You know what I mean?
If he had never even attempted to get up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an old saying, it's better to try and fail than to not try at all. In this case, no. It is far, far worse that Joe tried and failed than that he had never tried to climb those ropes. Because the whole gimmick was, you're too fat to do this. And the whole idea was, he's got to prove that he is, in fact, not too fat. And he didn't. When it was over, he was too fat. It was the death of Joe, really. That's extreme. I know it's not going to end up being like that, but I think this hurt him real bad.
He's no longer the special force. Certainly would have been if he had pulled out the win.
No, now he's got a major weakness, and he's not going to be able to overcome this weakness. How does he overcome it? Do another Ultimate X and climb the cables next time? Do a flip off him? He didn't break the set. He didn't dance on the cables. He tried and fell because his ass was too big. That was the whole gimmick. What a way to kill a guy.
Yeah, that will do it. They really, really made him look silly.
Yep.
And, yeah, I don't know. Just part of it, too, is that without pinfalls and submissions, they couldn't do any near falls. I'm changing the subject now to why the match was bad. But they couldn't do any near falls. They couldn't really tease any finishes. And they only went to the cables combined about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
So
it was a disappointment.
Just a bummer.
But really, you know what? I will say this. You almost need a lackluster match when you do a series like this. Because they got one more match. The idea is they're going to do it again in a cage, a 3-way. And it's better that they're coming off this one, really.
That's true.
You can't stay at a high level forever. So they may have needed this one in there, but I don't know if the X title or the Ultimate X match is the one to have a bad one on. But so anyway, the main event of the show, Christian and Monty Brown. The match itself, just no heat.
Yeah.
To an embarrassing degree. I mean, it was so sad to watch Christian go for the unprettier about 4 times, and not once did anybody have any reaction to it whatsoever. And it wasn't until he actually hit the move that it got any sort of pop. And Monty, I mean, technically this was way better than their last match, but nobody gave a rat's ass. And I think part of it was because Sting had not appeared yet. They were all waiting for Sting. They figured he was going to come out. This match was just, it was a way to bide their time until he appeared. But Christian really, this did not make him... This was the show of guys... This pay-per-view did not help them one bit.
No, the more I think about it, that's very true. Because, no, Christian, this is his... and it was a hard challenge with Monty, but this is his first... I think his first... Well, I guess it may have been the last month. But his first title defense on pay-per-view, and it was absolutely nothing I would want to pay to see. And, people always talked about how much they love Christian, and I was someone who was pointing out that I didn't think he was going to have that big an impact on TNA. And part of it is, I don't think, before coming to TNA, I had ever seen Christian work as a face. One time. I could be mistaken.
He works as a face for years in WWF. Maybe not years consistently, but...
I guess in the very early days when they were like Edge and Christian against the Hardy Boys, I guess they were kind of faces then. But I always think of him as a heel, and it's you just look at him, and he's not a baby face. He's not a hero. He's a guy you like watching, but
kind of one of those guys that when you know he's held down and when you know he's talented, you want to see more, but there's a certain level where when he actually gets so high, you realize that maybe he shouldn't be quite that high, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case with Christian, but it certainly was like that tonight.
Yeah. And part of it is Monty. I guess it was a year ago. We were watching all these shows at Blake Norton's house, or his father-in-law's house or something. But Monty had a match with Jarrett. And I went into it thinking Monty would win the title and thinking he should win the title. And when he didn't, I was stunned and confused. Well, now I know why. Because Monty Brown being counted on to have good matches consistently is a bad, bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the match, Monty was way better in this match than I expected. But I think the bottom line of this match, and how I'm going to sum it up, is no one gave a shit about it. Period.
Yeah.
So then afterwards, there was the big schmoz. Everybody ran out, Jarrett's whole crew, this, that, and the other thing. Of course, fans were waiting for Steve Borden. He finally came out really dressed like a dad going to church. I don't know what the hell he was wearing, but he was definitely not Sting. Steve Borden ran out, cleared the ring single-handedly, and who should come out to beat up Sting but Scott Steiner?
Big Papa Pump.
Scott Steiner came out, just about as big as ever, with a new tattoo of a dagger through a heart on his chest.
That's not the tattoo I would have gone with.
Yeah.
If I were Mr. Steiner, but hey, it's his chest. He can put whatever he wants on there.
And he and all the bad guys beat the hell out of Steve Borden, Sting, and put him in the recliner. Jarrett broke a guitar over his head, left him laying, and that was the end of the show. There's your new big TNA surprise, Scott Steiner.
Oh, God, what do you say? Are there legions of Scott Steiner fans who are going to hear about this and check out Impact this week? There's probably some, I guess.
Actually, you know what? I'm all for Scott Steiner showing up, to be honest with you. I mean, think of who do they have as a top-level heel besides Jeff Jarrett?
Well, Monty, and we saw what happened there. ENW, but they're presumably a tag team. And I would say the Canadians as a group, but no one guy, and that's it. So I guess you put it that way. They need men to feed the Sting, and I guess if you're going to bring somebody in, maybe he's as good as anyone.
See, part of the problem is
he's got name value.
I know that you and probably a lot of other people, when you think of Scott Steiner, you think of his latest run in WWE, which was a monumental disaster. I think of Scott Steiner at the end in WCW, when he was the champion. You have to realize that even back then he had the problem with his foot, and he was very, very limited. But he really, I mean, when he's a heel, just allowed to go crazy, he has a boatload of charisma.
Yes.
And when he's allowed to just beat the hell out of people, I mean, he's a lot of fun to watch. He's not going to have 5-star matches or anything like that, but he is a fun little badass. And part of the problem in WWE was he was sabotaged, without question.
Oh, yeah.
And when he first showed up and had that stare down in the talk with Hunter, he was super over. And it was just Hunter designed a match where he would be exposed. And the whole idea is, yes, Steiner, Goldberg, a lot of guys really aren't that good in the ring. But you know what? Your job as a promoter is to hide that weakness.
Yeah.
That's why Paul Heyman was so successful with, we mentioned earlier, Johnny Grunge, 911, a number of guys.
Cronus?
Sure, look at what he's done in Ohio Valley even with certain guys. Osama, Jesus Christ, Osama, I never wanted to ever watch him again. And suddenly he's my favorite guy on the whole deal. Because he found Osama's strength, which is being Osama, and he's hidden the weakness, which is actually getting in the damn ring.
Yes.
So if TNA is able to play to Scott Steiner's strengths, of which he does have some, I am all for him being a major player on the show. I am all for it.
Well, you do make some good points, particularly about they need guys for Sting to fight to have main event level matches. I don't think Sting and A1 is going to draw anyone. I don't think Sting and Chris Harris, although I'm sure Chris Harris would love to do it. I don't think it's going to make people buy pay-per-views. So, yeah, I guess it could work. I'm skeptical, but you've given me hope for it.
Rick Steiner, I would have a completely different.
Why? Yes.
But Scott Steiner, I mean, he did some real good stuff when he was the top heel in WCW.
I guess I was thinking about it. I'm thinking back to when he first showed up in WWE, and he did the angle with Matt Hardy and someone where he came out and just killed them both. The very first time he showed up, it was Survivor Series. And,
think of some of the great moments like Steiner and Tank Abbott.
Now is he? I guess he said he had a problem with his foot then, but yeah, when he just kills men, it's fun to watch.
I mean, imagine we'll be able to see some Scott Steiner squashes on Impact. I am totally all for that.
Would you like to see, for example, Scott Steiner versus Maverick Matt?
Oh, yes. Like you would not even believe.
Oh, Scott Steiner versus Elix Skipper.
Sure. Let's have it. Norman Smiley, I'm sure, would have a great squash match.
Okay, I would love to see Norman Smiley and Scott Steiner. That would be fun.
I give a thumbs up. The only bad thing about this whole deal, and it was a very bad thing, and I once again blame these fuckers in the Impact Zone, they bring back Steve Borden, who people have been waiting all night to see. And who, in fact, they were so excited to see, I guess, that they didn't give a shit about the main event. They just wanted to see Sting. They get their big new surprise in Scott Steiner. And what do? They chant Goldberg.
Oh, yeah, they did that, too.
They were chanting for Goldberg. Which I guess at least means they still want to see that Goldberg-Steiner match, which tells you at least, if they're chanting, I don't think they'd pay for it. But I don't know if they're going to get him. But I know TNA wants him, but...
Did anyone ever do Goldberg-Steiner?
Yeah, in WCW they did a couple.
It has to be done, okay.
In fact, they had an awesome match, if I recall correctly, in WCW.
It's possible.
Steiner and Goldberg, and Steiner beat him.
It was a long time ago.
Yes, I remember it being very, very good, but just two guys that people believe are badasses having a fight. That's the whole key to wrestling, which
Yeah, it is.
At least, people believe Steiner's a badass, so, I'm fine with it. But any other final thoughts on the pay-per-view?
This is one of those shows where when we started the show, I was all happy and giddy, and now looking back on it, I'm not sure why.
I blame myself.
Well, it happens sometimes.
It does
sometimes
happen.
Sometimes it goes the other way. You think the show's bad, and you go back and recap, and you find out, hey, this is actually pretty good. No, this is not one. But, there was still a lot of stuff to like. I think even if you thought it was a bad show, there was still stuff to like and stuff you don't see on WWE, so it wasn't a complete disaster.
It wasn't, but I don't know if I would recommend anyone pay $29.95 to see these things.
No.
Maybe next month, kids. It'll be worth the money. And next month, we'll even have Brent here, so it'll really be... What do you think about Impact? Let's get it over with.
Numbing.
Actually, the thing, I want to say something very quickly. Raw, I watched it. It was great for about an hour and 10 minutes or so, and then it went straight downhill. And Impact, I watched for about a half hour and hated, and then it went way uphill. How's that for a...
Well, there you go.
Sure, that's my thoughts on it.
Irony.
That's what happens when I give my thoughts. So let's hear your thoughts, Vince.
Your typical bad Impact with 400 guys in a 1-hour show, numbing. The crowd piping on the show is just so bad and so obvious, and it just kills it for me. There's this constant hum, this constant high-pitched hum throughout the entire show, and then when the crowd does try to get into it and does pop for the big spots, it doesn't mean anything.
There's a very big problem with the audio on this show for many reasons. There's a reason Don, West, and TNA scream so much. You can't hear them if they don't. They need to adjust the audio levels or something on this show, but
yeah.
It's a weird crowd. It was a much hotter crowd than last night, but crowd at a memorial service would have been hotter than the crowd they had last night at that show. What a miserable showing by the Orlando crew Sunday night. Miserable.
Yeah.
They should have all been ejected. They should have just done empty arena matches. At least there would have been a reason for no sound. AMW versus the Naturals, we talked about this very quickly. Team Canada won. Not really much to the match. Fans were into the finish, though. I'll give them that. They were going nuts, and they actually at one point thought the Naturals won the tag titles.
Yeah.
To the point where they didn't like the count so much they chanted bullshit.
Yeah.
Stunned me. But what can you do? It worked, so there you go. Borash interviewed Larry, who is just so great. I love Larry's character. He's an old geek, and he plays it up to the hill.
He's a fuddy-duddy.
He's happy with it. So
yes.
Larry gets a big thumbs up today.
He's always shaking his fist at those wacky kids.
He was talking about something. Scott D'Amore walked in and was ranting and raving about God knows what, said, I'm watching you. I was thinking, what the hell is he talking about? At which point Jeremy Borash, who I should know as the best tan of anyone on the show, said, Larry, what's he talking about? And Larry didn't know either. And I thought, that was a failure of a segment.
Well, it did lead to nothing. It did not make me want to watch anything. It did not terribly entertain me.
And I have since watched the pay-per-view, and I still don't know what the point of this was. This was stupid. In fact, that was one of the reasons I really started hating the show, because it was like, that's one of the things with TNA. I realize that on WWE you can have a 20-minute boring promo, and it truly is boring. But in the 20 minutes, there's a reason it goes 20 minutes. They very slowly, they very carefully, and in a very repetitive manner, hammer into your head exactly what you're supposed to be thinking, what you're supposed to know, and what you're not supposed to know.
Mm-hmm.
TNA in no way recreates that.
They just throw a bunch of shit out there.
And
dare you to keep up.
The thing is, like, Rock and Steve Austin could do 20-minute promos and it would work.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon, for God's sake, can do a 20-minute promo and it works.
Mm-hmm.
Hunter, no.
No.
Randy Orton, no.
No.
But it's still, Vince McMahon, just watch the opening Vince McMahon promo. He's a master. Everything you're supposed to think, he just hammers it into your head, into your soul. In TNA, there are segments, people talk, I'm like, what the fuck, why did they, what's going on? What am I supposed to be thinking here? What's the angle? I still don't understand. Can someone just please do a fucking 20-minute Cassidy Riley promo? Can someone please do a 20-minute Naturals promo just to tell me who they are and why I should care?
Well, you're right. Although the concept of a 20-minute Naturals promo, even if you just each had 10 minutes, that just wouldn't work.
Bullshit. Okay. I actually feel better now. Alex Shelley, Sanjay Dutt, and Chris Sabin have a match. Larry was out there in the ugliest Hawaiian shirt watching them, which was so great.
He's up there in his Hawaiian shirt with his hands in his pockets, just standing there slouching.
This is another good example of, when they tape something and they've got 2 weeks between when it airs and when it's taped and pay-per-view. They taped this, and there were all these plans for how it was going to lead to the match on Sunday, and it was all just for naught. They said the winner of this match would end up in the 4-way X Division match, and they didn't say what happened to the other 2 guys. Basically, 2 of them ended up in the match, and 1 of them got another match. So that was fun, but it was a fun little short spot fest, that sort of thing. Yep. Sabin pinned Shelley clean, and all I could think was 3 fucking weeks of hanging out in the main event with the top guys, and now you're lost in the mid-card yet again.
Woo!
Parody booking at its finest.
Yes.
I just don't get it. I mean,
well, it makes it even stranger that they jobbed out Puma at the pay-per-view.
Well, no, it's not even that. I mean, do you want to do something with Alex Shelley? Well, why did you do that? Why? Okay, you did it. You gave him the camera thing, which I presume was planned to lead to the Sting thing. Mm-hmm. So you're going to do something with the guy, and then you put him on TV, and in a 5-minute match, he just does a clean job. It's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard of. Sanjay Dutt couldn't do the job here.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you.
This is the point where I was like, I hate this show. I hate this promotion. I was coming off the show last night. I was like, if I never watch another TNA show, I will be completely fine with it. And then we had the segment that turned it all around. Christian and Monty Brown had been banned from the building. So they interviewed them via satellite.
You like this?
One was in Tampa and one was in Orlando. Somebody had mentioned this to me, and it was even more funny actually watching it. They had to be live via satellite because they were 75 miles away in the same state. There was just something about that was so great. And they were both so goofy, and Christian cut this promo, and he was saying something about Monty, you're no Lawrence Taylor. Mm-hmm. And Monty started giggling, and then Christian couldn't keep a straight face, and they were both giggling, and they just cut away, and I thought that it was so bad that it was fucking great. I love this company again.
Wow.
I just loved it for some reason. It did nothing for the pay-per-view. It did nothing. But it was just so TNA. It was really so Thunder.
It was thunderific, yeah. It was. I didn't get that excited about the giggling at the end, but the whole part leading up to it was so bad, particularly Christian. He was so flat and boring, and he.
It was not his best promo in any way. I was just happy that he had a collared shirt on.
He did dress up. That's good. He did at home dress up. And by the end, I was thinking, I want Monty to kick his ass.
Well, I also was all for Monty because he made fun of the fact that he looked like a star.
Yes.
I was like, Jesus, this is so
Plus,
great.
There were 2 men on TV. One had a belt, and the other one wanted the belt. And the guy who had the belt didn't seem like he cared all that much.
It was such a vivid illustration of what's wrong with TNA. But for some reason, it was so fantastically bad that I loved it.
People talk about how someone's a heel, and they get over, and then they immediately change their character. People talk about Cena that way. It's kind of the same thing with Christian. Christian was a heel, and he got over because he was, and we all hated the term, but he was the creepy little bastard. He was the guy who made jokes that were so not funny, they were funny. And now he's kind of got away from that. I guess if you want to count the LT thing, you can take it, but he's just a guy now.
Oh, he's just a guy. I don't know what has happened. He needs to turn heel or something.
He needs to be turned immediately.
Something's not working with young Christian, but it's patently obvious after the last couple of days.
Whatever they have planned, throw it out the window, turn Christian heel, and lead to Sting beating him in a year. But
Sting won't be around in a year.
Well,
so
at the end of the year.
Sure, 8 months,
whatever it is.
But yeah, it's, I don't know. Sting beating him in 8 months. Sting's got to do the job on the way out.
Oh, wait, you're right.
He's got to put somebody over.
Shit. Well, turn Christian. The rest is details.
Fine, there you go. So then we had the main event, and the show just got even better as it was Team 3D, Rhino and Truth versus Elix Skipper, the Prince of Punk, Maverick Matt, and one more man. I wrote Eric Young, but was he in the match?
It was David Young.
David Young. That explains the problem right here.
I
just looked at him and thought,
with Shane or Show or Sean.
What a motley crew. This was...
when they came out, those 4 with Simon Diamond and Tracy, where would you ever see these 6 people hanging out together except the wonderful world of pro wrestling?
It was Dudley's, Rhino, and Truth crashing a Halloween party and having a match. It's exactly what it was, and it was so great. And the best part was, a few weeks back, Bubba tried to get Devon to get the tables, but he accidentally told the wrong black guy. That was the comedy.
Mm-hmm.
He told Killings.
Yes.
And I was watching this match, and I was thinking, you know what'd be funny is if he tried to have Devon get the tables, but he accidentally told Elix, the black guy on the other team.
That would have been good, too.
They actually outdid me, though. Bubba was going to tell... I guess at this point he didn't care which black guy got the table.
He just wanted a Negro to get the tables.
That's right, and he was like, get the table, and both the brothers looked at him and were like, you get the table there, Whitey.
Get your own damn table, you fat white bastard.
That's right, and he put his head down in shame and went to get the table. That was
This is
5-star show.
great stuff.
This turned the entire show around just like that. And then Truth ended up pinning David Young, of course, since David Young never wins. And I'm, you know...
Are you going to go on the David Young rant again?
I'm not going to make any accusations, but, and I'm not going to say it, because people are going to assume I'm making accusations, but I swear to God I'm not making an accusation here, but I'm going to say this. A lot of people have seen guys get pushed, and they're like, you know, is he going down on the promoter or something like that? Is he giving him favors?
Certain people have been rumored to have that kind of behavior going on.
I will at least say mostly guys in WWE, but David Young's one of those guys. David Young, I don't believe. I can't imagine him doing favors for...
To earn the job, right, to lose every week?
Sure, but he's one of those guys that's looking at the show and it's like, why have you been employed for 4 years? You do a job on every show.
Well,
They've never done anything with you. There's a million other guys who could be doing jobs.
I see.
And you're just still here. You're like... Here's the reason I brought up that, actually. Not this has anything to do with anything, of course, but just... You know,
there's some other guys in this company.
The Nashville Brawler. That's what he is. He's the Orlando Brawler. So go for it.
Well, we watched Impact first, so I think we should start with that.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
What were your thoughts on Impact?
Oh, it was the usual shindig with way too many guys doing way too many things, and it, you know, for example, the main event was an 8-man tag for no good reason whatsoever. But the big story was Scott Steiner cut a promo, and it was killer.
He really did. I was a big proponent of Scott Steiner before, actually really just after he appeared on the pay-per-view. I thought I was going to give him a chance. You'll recall this discussion we had, I believe.
Yes.
And I'll say this. He's probably going to suck in the ring. Monumentally. But I loved his promo. He came out, he's just as jacked as ever. He's huge and ripped. The biggest difference between now and 2000 whatever, when he was in WCW, is his belly button is far more distended these days. About 3 inches farther out from his body, which cannot be healthy. But he just came out looking like the scariest man on 2 legs, cut the most horrifying promo that he was just going to kill everyone because he's the man, and I gave it 2 hearty thumbs up.
It was great. He was standing there... You know, all these guys I like America's Most Wanted and Bobby Roode and Eric Young, and then he walked in and just by standing there made them look like the biggest goofs ever. And he was a star.
He really was, and what a coincidence that Scott Steiner should his finishers. It's the camel clutch, Vince.
Suplex him, put him in the camel clutch, break his back, and then fuck his ass.
Everybody listening to this show for the first time free, they don't know about the whole Iron Sheik deal. We have been playing Iron Sheik drops ever since Thursday when we played the whole Iron Sheik deal on the show, and it's still just as great as ever.
Oh, it will never not be funny.
It will never not be funny.
40 years now, I watched that Iron Sheik interview and laughed my ass off.
Iron Sheik did an interview, and he does not like B. Brian Blair. He hates him. He wants to basically...
Suplex him, put him in the camel clutch, break his back, and then fuck his ass.
And why didn't he do that at WrestleMania, Vince? Because he is...
A professional.
That's right. And is the Iron Sheik not the greatest man there ever has been?
I never respect the gay. I never respect the fag. You was lucky, punk.
The Iron Sheik.
You know... Scott Steiner could use those exact same words. It would not be funny.
No.
I would wet myself in fear.
And by the way, everybody that has the entire Iron Sheik shoot DVD, we've only seen about a 4-minute clip from it. I demand more of it appear on YouTube. Or if nothing else, just please somebody send me the DVD so we can make some more drops, because I've never seen a funnier promo ever in my entire life. He is the greatest man ever.
For the God and Jesus and Mr. McMahon.
The Iron Sheik. And by the way, kids, for those of you that are not subscribers, I am trying, along with Carl Stern, to get the Iron Sheik on Figure 4 Daily. And unfortunately for you all, it will not be a free show. I will require...
That's for goddamn sure.
Everyone will pay for this goddamn show. But anyway, we were talking about Scott Steiner when we got off on that big rant.
Let's talk about Sheik more.
I'd love to talk about Sheik
He's more fun.
I want to get the show done sometime in the next
Okay.
12 hours. But anyway, Scott Steiner came out and he basically threatened to kill everybody, buried Christian, he buried
Rhino, buried 3D.
He called them backyard goofs or something of that nature. He said his vein in his arm was bigger than Christian's arm, and the arm was bigger than Christian's leg. The latter of which is probably true, to be honest.
His arm is certainly bigger than Christian's leg.
So anyway, he buried everybody and that sort of thing. So he challenged Sting, so I guess Sting will return next week to give his answer.
At some point in the show, they mentioned that Sting would be there next week.
Then we had Borash interviewing Larry, and Larry Zbyszko was explaining this, that, and the other thing about the championship committee and the title tournament or upper management or whatever the hell. In walked Samoa Joe, was very angry, and he wanted a rematch for the X title. I guess because the match was a disappointment. It's the only reason I could think of. Larry flipped out, and Samoa Joe flipped out, and Larry said, "Calm down, dude. What we're doing is we're moving you out of the X division. You're just too great." Just sort of an odd...
He almost used those exact words.
Odd endorsement of the X division.
He said the X division itself is holding you back.
Yeah. So anyway, Joe is going to get a mystery opponent for next week, and hate to give away spoilers here on the show, but it's going to be Sabu.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that battle. Samoa
I think it'd be a lot of fun.
And Sabu. It actually could be very, very fun. So we shall see. But that's
Sorry.
Yes.
The key point of this is that Zbyszko walked out and Joe did not know who his opponent was. He was not getting his title shot, and then Samoa Joe went crazy.
He did. He destroyed the office like I wanted him to destroy the Ultimate X set. He kicked the door in. He tipped things over. He
threw
yelled
the
and
couch.
Screamed. He should have started eating the desk. That would have been the final, not the straw, what would you call it? The final lining in the silver cloud?
No, that's certainly not it. I don't know I don't know what you're looking for, but that ain't it.
I actually have no idea what I was trying to say there, but
So it would have been cool.
It would have been great. So then we had Elix Skipper versus Sanjay Dutt and Maverick Matt, a three-way to determine the American in the X Cup, won by the guy from the Himalayas, Sanjay Dutt. Simon Diamond was there making fun of that. How could a man named Sanjay represent the U.S., he asked, and Tanay's like, well, he was born in wherever, but Bombay, I believe he said, but he's an American citizen, so that's your answer, kids. And then we had a bunch of skits with the AJ Pierce
Pieroski
and the Demon and Simon Diamond, and they were funny. I actually enjoyed these skits.
Did you really?
They were just so goofy. Simon Diamond actually got to be wacky, and the baseball players were just so phenomenally bad that it was good camp.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it.
It was very hokey, excessively hokey almost, and the highlight for me was Ozzie Guillen laid him out with a chair shot at the end of it, and it was the lightest chair shot you ever saw, and I thought this whole thing was gone to hell. And then Ozzy cut a short but passionate promo about, "Get off my field, you piece of something."
Yeah,
and that redeemed it right there.
We didn't find out what he really said. It was a naughty word of some sort, but this was quite entertaining. Team 3 did a promo in which they sang. It was actually a pretty decent little promo, and then Bubba got very mad, and next week is going to be Team 3D and Team Canada in a steel cage match. Team 3D said they'd been in many cage matches, and this might be the last one that Team Canada is ever in, so it's a good little promo there.
Decent. When you're doing a pay-per-view of all cage matches, I don't know if I like the idea of doing a cage match for free right before. But it's not my company. No, they didn't ask me.
What can you do?
Yeah.
Then we had Abyss destroying Cassidy Riley. I have nothing more to add.
Fine entertainment.
Jim Mitchell cut a promo saying Abyss deserved to be the next man to get a shot at Christian's title. Said if Christian didn't come and make them an offer, they were going to go get him. And I pray to God they beat him on the set of his movie. That would be so great.
Yeah.
Because I wanted it with Edge and Foley, and we never got it. So now I'm hoping they'll give it to us in TNA.
That'd be fine. And this is not news, but Jim Mitchell is awesome. He is the man.
He's a great man. And I bought myself a blow-up doll. I just couldn't handle the loneliness anymore. Sometimes we're doing the show, and I'm looking over the drop board, and I'll just see something that I have no idea what it is. And that was one of them. It just said, blow up. And I thought, do I have an explosion drop or something like that? Or what the hell is this here? But that ended up being what it was. So, sorry about that, kids. Let's move on here. We had Norman Smiley and Shark Boy facing LAX. Machete was there until Conan, who could not walk, turned on him. He was pinned, and then they beat the hell out of him, so that's the end of Machete.
Bye, thank you for coming.
It's funny, because they beat the hell out of him at the pay-per-view, and I thought, well, that's the end of him. And then they actually brought him in for another set of tapings just so they could write him out a second time.
I don't know. Maybe they thought they could use him to get Shark Boy over. I don't get it, but he's gone. God bless him, but he shouldn't be on TNA.
Conan is completely immobile.
He is. It's at first he came out and I thought he was doing like a gangsta swagger, but no, he's broken. He can't walk.
He's got a hip that needs to be replaced, and it's so extremely obvious. And it's very sad, but you know, we're always talking about the pirate on SmackDown. He's a horrible pirate.
You are without doubt the worst pirate I've ever heard of.
He's a horrible pirate, but I saw Conan with his giant earrings and his headband, and he's limping around like he's got a peg leg.
Yeah.
And I thought, you're the coolest pirate I ever saw.
He would make a much better pirate.
He would make a fantastic pirate.
Put an eye patch on him, he's done.
Yeah, he is, really. You know, we're going to have the Cubs fan on, and we're going to have a discussion about pirates and wrestling. So it's coming up in about...
There's a long tradition of piracy in Lucha Libre.
And most of it's good, unlike this crap up here in America.
Shitty pirate we have to deal with.
Shitty pirates as far as the eye can see. Truth and Rhino and AJ and Daniels faced Alex Shelley, the Prince of Punk, and AMW. 3 guesses who did the job ski there. The man who was signed with the WWE, Mr. Shannon Moore. It was a fine little match, nothing exceptional or anything like that, but they beat the crap out of Shannon. AJ pinned him with the Styles Clash. That was the end of that. And overall, I got to say, this was a fun show. I enjoyed this TNA show more than a lot of TNA shows lately, and that must be saying something because I should be hating wrestling about right now.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fine. It was not as irritating as most of them are, but still there's the problem of just too many guys doing too many things. And this did not need to be an 8-man tag. They could have buried Shannon Moore in a simple tag match, but they had to get those extra 4 guys in there.
Yeah.
But whatever. The finish, it was really cool. The last minute or so, everyone was hitting big dives and all hitting their finishers, and it was good stuff.
Okay, give your initial thoughts on the Impact show there.
Good news in that we talk about how the shows need to seem special. This one seems special. That's good. Bad news is in that they gave away what they want people to pay money for in 3 or 4 weeks.
Meaning the cage match?
The cage match.
Yeah, they did give away that cage match. So.
And the cage match they put on was not terribly good. So
it was...
it wasn't awful, but...
Actually, you know what? It wasn't, but for what... If it would just have been a cage match on a show, it would have been fine. But it was a cage match previewing an all-cage match show.
Yeah.
So that made a bad cage match worse.
Yes.
It was actually a problem we saw a lot on Raw, but we shall get into Raw in a moment. The TNA show opened up with Tenay and mid-ring talking about the pay-per-view, the all-cage matches. He called out Samoa Joe to announce Joe's mystery opponent at the show as mystery heavyweight. The answer is Sabu.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you first think of all the heavyweights to face Samoa Joe, you would initially just think Samoa Joe or Sabu's at the very bottom of that list. But when I really think about it, this could be a fun match.
I expect this to be a totally fun match. I mean, people think of Sabu and they focus on the tables and the barbed wire and the chair, and that's how he's marketed on the show. The promo zoomed in on the scars in his nose and his barbed wire everywhere. But that's not like, he's more than that. He's, kind of the X Division guy. He does 500 springboards a match. He brawls a lot, and I think
Stevie J
did the song.
That is the creator of the Old Country Brian.
Thank you, Stevie J.
Stevie J, you get a huge thumbs up here on the show today. That was a fantastic creation there. I think Stevie J just discovered Audacity. It may not have been him. I'm not sure exactly who it was, but somebody, and the reason I think it's Stevie J was because somebody had just discovered it, and that's how you do all the songs and everything like that. They edit it together on Audacity. And they just discovered it, and like the next day they'd had this masterpiece. I thought, that is a quick damn learner.
Well, sometimes there are people who have, great artistic talent. They just don't have all the
They
proper
don't have the
tools.
means.
I'm sorry?
They don't have the means.
The means. They don't have the right equipment.
Sure, like Brooke Hogan has the means, as we learned on the show today, to sit at home all day and learn how to dance.
There you
and
go.
Sing
Okay.
and such. But anyway, you were talking about Sabu.
Well, I think the match is going to be very good. I think Joe is almost incapable of having bad matches, and I think Sabu is very good at getting killed. And Joe's good at killing people, yes.
That's the key. Joe doesn't mind getting hit real hard, and Sabu's going to fall on him, and Sabu will get killed, and it should be a pretty darn little fun match. So there you go. Team 3D did a little deal with the Borash he was interviewing, and they were talking about the cage match later, and just a promo, nothing special. They said that their faces were going to be very sad when they were raked up against steel and that sort of thing. So
the usual okay Team 3D promo.
Actually, the one last week where they sang was great.
Yeah.
This was not that.
This is not that great, but there was nothing wrong with it.
No. Diamonds in a Rough faced Chris Sabin, Sanjay Dutt, and Jay Lethal. Just a match. Here's the thing that annoys me about TNA, and there were things in this show that really pissed me off, and this is one of them. You want to give 3 guys a win, that's fine, but did you just fucking do a thing last week where they were, Simon Diamond was all over the baseball field and getting a rub from baseball players and AJ Pierce-Sixney and everything like that, and now the very next week you just beat him on TV free. It just seems so stupid.
Well, yeah, you got a point, and it's more of what TNA does, where
everybody has to beat everybody else.
Everybody has to beat everybody else. No one remembers what happened last week most of the time, and everyone wins, everyone loses, and it just keeps going. Everyone just keeps treading water and not going anywhere.
That's right. It's parody booking, which I abhor, and I don't know. It's rough because you sort of have to try and keep people happy. But if you do a promotion and everybody's happy, you're doing something horribly wrong.
Yeah, because we've seen that parody booking does not work. The idea is to create stars, not to.
If everybody's a star, nobody's a star.
Yeah,
so
that's
you can't make everybody a star. You've got to have jobbers. You've got to have guys that win every week. Mm-hmm. The Alex Shelley one particularly pissed me off. They seemed like they were doing something with him, then all of a sudden the next week on TV he just loses.
Yeah. And
wow, you sure did something with Alex Shelley.
And then the next week he's just back, and it doesn't matter. The wins and losses don't matter. There's no ramifications.
And they need to.
They do.
There's a story. I can't mention the superstar's names, but it's a WWE wrestler that was on the show tonight who many times in the past I'm sure has said that winning and losing don't matter, this, that, and the other thing. Well, he met up with another WWE star recently. He sat him down and he said, I'm going to tell you a big secret now. Wins and losses do matter. Wow. That was the big secret.
That was the sage knowledge.
The sage knowledge of this veteran.
Passed down from the veteran to the other veteran, actually. But
it is true. I mean, you can bullshit all you want about how wins and losses don't matter. And if you're a guy like Ric Flair, sure, they probably don't matter to much of a degree. But if you're not Ric Flair, then guess what? They matter.
They don't matter for Ric Flair. They don't matter for Edge. They probably don't matter for Hunter or Undertaker.
They matter for Edge.
I'm sorry. He was the one I was going to bring up as a guy who they do matter for.
They matter for everybody below. And even, Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels does a lot of jobs and does sort of water him down. I mean, he's done job after job after job this last month. And he doesn't really come across as... He's less special now than he's been in the past. Part of it is also he's working.
I was going to say, the fact that he's on TV every week is the bigger deal. But Edge needs all the wins he can get right now.
TNA needs to pick a certain number of people that they're going to get over, and those guys just don't lose. I mean, it's worked for Joe. It worked for Joe in the X Division. That's why Joe became a star and the most valuable player in the X Division. A, he could work. B, he could have good matches. And C, he never lost. He never was defeated. He was a winning wrestler.
Yes.
That means something.
He beat everyone.
In 2006. That's why he got over in ROH. That's why the ROH title meant something. He didn't lose for over a year. This stuff is really simple, but anyway, let's move on before I speak for 6 hours.
We've already gone over a half hour on this show.
Team Canada was freaking out about the cage match, that sort of thing. They did another one of those things that I hate with this show, which was Scott D'Amore telling Larry Zbyszko, you're going to be in big trouble, brother. It's a secret storyline that nobody knows anything about, yet we're supposed to care.
Yeah.
At least, I don't know. I'm going to move on. Oh, there's another thing about this that I hated. So, you've got 42 minutes. Mm-hmm. You've got to get 58 people on a 42-minute show.
That's the bigger problem.
And it's bigger than that. So of this 42 minutes, they wasted about 3 minutes doing an angle that's going to be built around Larry Zbyszko getting new hair. Mm-hmm. They're teasing that he's thin on top. Borash points it out. D'Amore points it out. Larry flips out. Eventually, he's going to get a hair transplant in this hair match and everything like that. Yeah, that was one of the things that had to be built up on this show. Larry's new hair.
It is 2 hours of stuff in a 1 hour show.
This was 4 hours of stuff in a 1 hour show. And an hour of it was Larry's hair.
Yes.
So then we had Sting doing a pre-taped promo saying he was going to show up at the pay-per-view. Not as Steve Borden this time, as Sting. He is reinstated, which is odd because do you need to be reinstated when you retire?
I don't know how
Isn't
that works.
Isn't it normally a suspension or a firing requires a reinstatement?
I think retirement, you just call the office back and say, hey, got an opening?
Yes. When you leave on your own terms against the will of the company, do you really have to call and petition for them to bring you back?
It is a special hearing.
But anyway, they did because there's a stipulation, which is that Jarrett has to have a match in a cage with him with weapons and shit like that. So it's 6 sides of steel, Sting's army versus Jarrett's army with weapons. I don't think Sting even knew all the stipulations.
I'm not really sure either. He did use the word war games.
No, first he goes, there's going to be weapons. There's going to be bats, and he goes, well, there's going to be some other stuff. And
he said there's going to be a roof.
Sure.
He said there's going to be bats, and then he said...
No, he wants a roof. He didn't even say there was going to be.
I see. But he said there would be bats and other stuff.
Yeah,
but,
other stuff.
But he used the word war games, and hopefully they do that stipulation and do it right, because it's so easy to do that. You just have every 2 minutes the heels get the advantage, and every 2 minutes the baby faces make a big comeback, and it's almost impossible to screw up.
But it can happen.
Oh, I have seen it happen. Don't get me
WCW
wrong.
did a very good job screwing that concept
Well, they screwed it up
end.
many, many times.
Scott Steiner and Jeff Jarrett came out, and basically Steiner destroyed the Naturals, particularly the dark-haired Natural, who no-showed a Hermie Sadler show and was in big trouble. This is what you get. Don't no-show Hermie Sadler, or Scott Steiner will kill
fuck you up.
And
this was fine entertainment.
It was, but I expected more. And I think this is one of those deals where it had been built up that it was just the most... I think they called it the most vicious beating ever on Impact. Mm-hmm. I've seen Samoa Joe do far worse damage.
Well, we've seen Scott Steiner do far worse damage.
That's true.
It was, you know...
It was a good beating.
It was a good beating. The big spot was to press them over the top, and
yeah,
he just, he landed as safely as you can possibly do that.
Sure.
But, at the end of it, Scott Steiner took the beaten, whatever Natural it was, and he put him in the camel clutch.
Break his back, make him humble, and then fuck his ass.
Oh, he forgot the suplex and the camel clutch.
Suplex him, put him in the camel clutch, break his back, and then fuck his ass.
The Natural escaped without that happening, so he was not truly humbled the old country way.
He only took the middle part of the humbling. The first move and the last part of the humbling, he escaped.
That's right. So we had Conan and Homicide doing a promo about how they'd taken out that punk Busta Machete, I believe is how Conan described him. Some great, wacky comment. But anyway, Bullet walked up, and the Bullet challenged Conan to an arm wrestling match. And I'm dying to see this because I need to see an arm wrestling contest in a steel cage.
Yes.
I've never seen it before, and I have this intense desire to see it.
Between Bullet Bob and Conan. My favorite part of this was when Bullet Bob said, "I've lost several steps, but Conan, I think you've lost more."
And it's true, and it was sort of sad, to be honest with you. Kind of like, actually, somebody mentioned this about the Iron Sheik show today. You listen to it, and the Iron Sheik drops are all funny, but when you actually hear the show, it's sort of sad.
You'll
understand, Vince.
It's a little heartbreaking.
You
sympathize a little more, I'm guessing.
Well, I've always sort of sympathized with the Iron Sheik. I can still laugh my ass off when he threatens to suplex a man, put him in the camel clutch, and
the backbreaking and the
humbling
ass fucking, yes.
the old country way and that sort of thing. But it is sort of a sad story, but that's another story for another time. So then we had Team Canada versus Dudley's in a cage match. If I forgot anything on this show, sorry, we need to get moving here. It was, like I said earlier, lackluster. The one thing I noticed about this show more than anything else was crowd's dead. They've so burned out this crowd.
They probably have. I was not paying attention to that.
I was paying very, very close attention.
Mm-hmm.
It was a deal where, in the opening match with all the small guys, the Saban match, it was like guys would do, there was no heat. Somebody would do a huge dive, and about 15 fans would go. And they would just sit there in silence again. And I thought,
I didn't notice that.
That's bad news.
They were clapping not because they were excited, but they were clapping because that's when they were supposed to clap.
There were
They were following the script.
There were 5 more dives in a 2-minute period than there were in all of Raw. And this is what they got. Yay! That was it.
That was it.
Same thing with the cage match here. No heat. Eric Young just gigged like a mother bear.
Poor guy.
And
wasn't this... What was the time frame between this match and his health scare? Was it a great...
Very shortly, I believe.
It's like a few days?
Something like that. I don't know the exact... I don't know when the health incident went down, so... But yeah, he's crazy. And the highlight of this actually was afterwards when the bad guys beat up the good guys and Team Canada sang the national anthem, and Eric Young had lost so much blood he just fainted in the middle of the national anthem.
And then, after fainting, he immediately stood back up and began to sing again. Because he's Eric Young, and he's great.
A professional.
He's a professional.
He is a professional. They did their match. It was plain. It started as a brawl, broke down into a regular tag, and Team 3D made a comeback and hit their finisher and got the pin. There was no drama to it whatsoever, and it was very plain and boring. And if their idea was to make you paid money to see 3 more hours of this, they failed. The good news is they did do the post-match angle where the rest of Team Canada and A&W came down and they locked the cage door. And as the Team Canada worked over the Dudleys inside, various small baby faces ran out and tried to climb the cage, but A&W kept running them off. And it was, the classic thing that Bill Watts used to do 600 times, but it still works.
Yeah, I'm looking at my report here, and I don't know what the hell happened, but I have part of Raw way the hell down here below Ohio Valley, got the other half way the hell up here, so while I'm fixing things, Vince, what'd you think of the Ohio Valley show?
Well, we are missing one part of TNA still.
Oh, that's right, we missed the big angle at the end, which was not Scott D'Amore, Alex Shelley and Jim Mitchell were spying on Christian's wife.
Mm-hmm.
And they followed her all over the place, and it wasn't just a day of stalking. They eventually just confronted her with the camera and everything like that, and told her to give Christian a message, "We'll see you soon." Mm-hmm. And sure, it was a fine idea. It was missing a lot in execution.
It was, but I think part of it is that it did end with "to be continued." So I think there'll be part 2 of... well,
I hope part 2 delivers.
Yeah.
Because part 1 was...
There were only 2 real highlights to part 1. One was the part where they were filming Christian's wife through the bedroom window, and Alex said something about how he'd done this plenty of times before.
That's right.
And Alex Shelley is a pretty damn funny guy. And there's another shot. They followed her to a grocery store, and there was a shot of Jim Mitchell walking the aisles of the grocery store with his cane and his suit and his beard and his eyebrows.
I think that's how he walks around in real life, though. I'm going to have to confirm that, but I would not be surprised.
It's still great to see on film. So, yeah, then they scared her, and she acted scared, and presumably next week Abyss will destroy Christian and toss him around the living room.
Thank God Christian's the one pursuing the acting career, not his wife. You got to say that. She was not good. She was acting...
From what I've seen of Christian, I'm...
overly scared when just a man went up to her to chat. He wasn't even threatening her.
No. This man was Jim Mitchell.
I realize that, but you think she's never seen Jim Mitchell? She's fucking Christian's wife, you geek. It's not a strange man on the street.
I've seen Jim Mitchell hundreds and hundreds of times, and if he surprised me at a tanning salon...
Well, you're a girl.